Aloha, everyone. Welcome to our Elizabeth Kahanu Hawaiian Civic Club members meeting. It's been a minute since we've had a meeting, but we are excited to invite and welcome Kalani Kaʻanāʻanā to talk to us about his new role and to talk about his new organization, Hawaii Green Growth. So excited to have you, Kalani. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Mahalo
Tell
Plante.
us, share. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. Kawelina nui o ke aloha ia o ko pakahia pau. Thank you for the introduction, Dre. I am Kalani Kaʻanāʻanā. I have multiple hats. I'm the vice president of Kailua Hawaiian Civic Club. So from one club to another, mahalo for having me. And with my work hat on, as the new chief executive officer of the Hawaii Green Growth Local 2030 Hub. So I want to invite us to make this interactive as best as possible with those that are on board tonight. And then I'll try to run through as best I've come to understand it in a month. So maybe I'll start there. I joined the team on July 7th, so just coming up to the first month here, but really excited about the work. I've been involved tangentially through my former role at HTA and looking at what some of these goals are. And I'm going to lean on, Dre, can I get sharing turned on pretty please?
Maybe.
Okay. I don't mean to break rule 2.
I will make you co-host, so that should allow sharing.
Wonderful. And then I'm going to try to be technologically savvy. Did that work, folks?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so the premise of Hawaii Green Growth is we're here to facilitate the implementation of Hawaii's local goals, known as the Aloha Plus Challenge. There are 6 goals that have been articulated by community that really govern everything from clean energy transformation all the way right around the wheel to smart, sustainable communities. What's interesting about this work that I've learned is it also overlaps quite cleanly with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so I think what's interesting is the process by which Hawaii started to think about the SDGs really started before them, right? And so the Aloha Plus Challenge predates the SDGs and really came out of the 2011 APEC summit that was hosted in Hawaii, and really looking at how do you balance all of these really important things, right? So how do we balance the economy, the environment, and social needs? And so that huina, that intersectionality of this work, I think is what I'm most excited about. What you see here on the slide is how the 17 SDGs overlap the pre-existing state Aloha Plus Challenge goals. The goals were originally set and affirmed by not only the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, the governor, and the 4 mayors at the time, and each subsequent administration has sort of re-upped their commitment to these goals. And so who are we and what do we do? And so I think about it in these 4 pillars, right? We have political leadership and local goals, we have public-private partnerships, measurement, and then concrete action. And so a lot of what we try to do is make sure that we stay true to those things as we progress against the goals. We like to think about our process as a wheel. You know, you hear terms like circular economies and other things like that, but I think for us it's iterative and much like an island, everything is connected and interconnected. And so you'll see our process outlined there on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side are our working groups. So we have 3 primary working groups. So we have the Policy and Legislation Working Group, Measures and Data Working Group, the Sustainability Business Forum, and then the Alawai Watershed Collaboration. I think of less as a working group, but actually more of our concrete action and sort of trying to bring to fruition the goals outlined. And then you'll see on the bottom the kind of what or the how that we do. And so on that left-hand side, you'll see the Aloha Plus dashboard and the voluntary local review. What I think that is important for and ties to the Measures and Data Working Group is how do we have transparency and accountability in the conversation about how we're progressing against these goals. The next one is our annual network legislation report and job survey. Again, that ties to the Policy and Ledge Working Group. We know that many of the levers available to us are policy and legislative in action. And so whether it's federal, state, or county level policy and ledge, we're taking a look at all of that. We have student and community outreach, and so we also have a SDG Youth Council, that helps us stay in line, I guess, for lack of a better term, with how youth are perceiving how we turn over our environment, our economy, and our well-being and quality of life to them, and what that looks like and what they'd like to see. The ESG metrics and sustainability reports are tied to the Sustainability Business Forum, where we gather CEOs of Hawaii's companies to, again, advance and progress our progress on these goals. And then finally, we worked with Aina Aloha Economic Futures and Stantec to create a Malama implementation tool. And really, I think, to use some of the buzzwords in the industry, it's a community-based project assessment form. And so really, how do we make sure that projects are being proposed match and align to what community is looking for? And so that's kind of the last piece. This integrated architecture, I think, is also another backbone to how we get this done. It's really an important thing to do it in a collaborative way and to move together as we do this work. What's interesting for me coming on board recently is recognizing, and having just returned from New York at the high-level political forum at the United Nations, how Hawaii is an exemplar of this. And so the second half of our name, Local 2030 Hub, really is a badge of excellence that's been recognized by the Local 2030 Coalition and Deputy Secretary of the UN, who said 89% of the goals being implemented need to happen at a local level. And so what are these bright spots? Where are these places where localization is really happening and is doing good? And so Hawaii's been recognized as one of them. And so we were the first, and we were first from an island globally. The partnerships that we're forming, that we have as a peer-to-peer network to support one another in this is, I think, critical to how we get this done. And so it really, I think, is reiterated in sort of how we might phrase, it's a kako thing, right? It's a everybody, all hands on deck, full of sort of society effort as we do this work. And so we're really proud of the network and the membership that we have to do that. And then if I could, and I'm hoping the technology follows me, if you permit me, I do want to share a video from our SDG Youth Council so you can hear from them exactly what they want from us.
Our values, culture, and indigenous knowledge have strengthened Hawaii and its people for 1,000 years.
Our kupuna sustained our islands and natural resources
by maintaining a balanced system
focused on caring for the Aina.
When we look at the ahupua'a structures of old,
we see thriving ecosystems,
vibrant cultures,
and reciprocal relationships.
A'ohe hana nui ke alu'ia. Familiarizing the people of the world with this way of thinking is a critical step to creating a brighter tomorrow.
The future of Hawaii and island Earth depends on it.
This mindset, based on ike kupuna, kuleana,
malama, and aloha,
paired with today's modern technology and knowledge,
has the potential to create a sustainable future
for island Earth.
As Hawaiians,
this is our mission and our vision.
We believe that if we take care of the Earth,
it will take care of us. And if we take care of each other,
the world will be a richer and fairer place for everyone.
When we think of the Aloha Plus Challenge,
we think of the world.
The Sustainable Development Goals
hope to achieve.
It paints a picture of what we've accomplished
and what we must work to create. War, hunger,
violence, racism,
inequality
are starting to seep into the minds of everyone,
especially the youth.
It shouldn't be normal for a young child to hear about a war
and think nothing of it.
It shouldn't be normal for a teenager to watch the news
and not be affected by the pain of others.
We want our children to be future servant leaders,
be educated,
compassionate,
healthy, and thrive.
We want to take them to our favorite beaches
without having to dodge plastic on the sand.
We see a planet empty of poverty and starvation. We see a world that puts the needs of the community
over the interests of business.
We see equality and equal opportunities
as the norm rather than the exception.
We visualize the future for Hawaii and island Earth,
where we aren't harmed by the effects of climate change,
because we took steps to fight it now.
The future has limitless possibilities.
But our current values and lifestyle
will not preserve our planet for future generations.
We cannot put off changing things any longer. We refuse to stand idle
While 2030 looms closer and closer.
We, the youth of Hawaii, plead with you to act now
Let us look to the past for wisdom.
and to the future for survival. We only have one island Earth.
Let us do our best to take care of it and each other.
We are one species.
With one planet,
One chance.
Heli I Kaʻanāʻanā, he kaua ke kanaka.
And so you see the youth have an accountability that they're asking of us as future ancestors and how we might turn that work over. And so we support this network of youth from across the island, or across the islands, excuse me. As they convene, they talk, they discuss. I'm constantly impressed. I would go so far as to say that these youth, in my mind, and I feel a little bit weird saying this, but kind of in my head, I think about them as the dream realized with the Hawaiian Renaissance. I hear them articulate their values and their vision and how they act with integrity, and it really just is inspiring. And so again, this youth council, I think, is a really important part of our work at Hawaii Green Growth, and it's done in partnership with Kamehameha schools, and they're the ones that are able to support other youth from other schools to participate. And so we're grateful for that partnership. You'll see that they've sort of articulated it in the video, but they have it here on the slide. Skip over that. Now the dashboard, again, I mentioned earlier, the dashboard and the data really provide the transparency and the accountability on how we're progressing against these goals. And so for me, what I think is interesting is you see quite a bit of red here on the slide. And that tells us we have much more work to do. You see some there with measuring in the yellow and green on track. We really have 2 goals that are noted as on track and 1 that we're near target. And so I think, again, it just underscores the work ahead of us. We know that 2030 is a milestone and not a finish line. But again, we recognize that the goals were set with that as the original target. And so we're taking a look at what the next 5 years look at. And that's part of my role as the new CEO to really take us through the next 5 years. And so we're going to be undergoing a strategic planning process for a 5-year strat plan from 2026 to 2030. The local global model, again, I think really what I'm proud of the team and Celeste and her leadership before me was the ability to take the learnings that we had over the last decade and really scale the model. And so we're a co-chair of the Secretariat for the Local 2030 Islands Network, along with the Global Island Partnership, or GLISPA. Some of you may have met Kate. And so both HGG and GLISPA are the co-chairs, but you'll see there at the bottom of the slide, Guam Green Growth, Palau, CNMI, and just recently, as earlier in July this month, Marshall Islands launched their green growth. And so again, I think this model is worth replicating and scaling. And so we provide technical assistance and capacity building to these island nations who are looking to implement a similar program to advance the goals that they've identified for their own countries. Overall, I want to just say that, I think this really summarizes well our progress against the 6 goals and 35 targets of the Aloha Plus Challenge. There's a lot of red on here. Certainly, I think we'd like to be in a better place, but it is what it is. But it also underscores, again, the work to be done. And so we look forward to doing that work in partnership with many, many folks and subject matter experts and communities across Hawaii to get that done. I'll go through the next set of slides a little quickly, but in terms of highlights, you'll see, and you can find the full report posted online. And maybe, Dre, I'll send you the link to the actual VLR, or the voluntary local review, which is what this is summarizing. And so a VLR is a voluntary local review. So it's a report to the United Nations on our progress. And in this case, Hawaii as a state submitted a VLR. Hawaii was the first state and still is the only state to have issued a VLR to the UN. So 2025 was the 3rd of these VLRs. And so again, it proves the consistency and the commitment of collective action for these goals. And so the next couple slides, like I mentioned, are highlights from the report. Andrea, I'll send you and the club members the links to them. One thing I'm also really proud of is the report is available in English and Olelo Hawai'i. And obviously that's, I think, important for us to note that this work happens in both languages. I'm gonna skip through here a little bit and let you folks take a look at that. And then I want to leave this one up a little bit longer. So if anybody wants to take a photo of the QR code and can access it, so those online who may be watching this later on YouTube have the access to the VLR like I mentioned. And so you can take a look at that now. And then with that being said, I just want to maybe wrap up and say mahalo to you folks as a club, not only for your good works that you're doing, but also for this opportunity for me as a Hawaiian leader to come and share a little bit about my new role and the organization that I have the privilege to lead. So Dre, I'll pause here and I'll take some questions if you have time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kalani, for that overview. I think, you know, when we see and hear these, you know, very big, bold goals, you know, sometimes they can feel overwhelming. But then I saw on your dashboard, right, there's some smaller goals. And, you know, as a Hawaiian Civic Club and as a part of the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs, what could organizations like ours do to, you know, help move some of these goals forward? What advocacy can we do to, you know, do that? So tell us about how on the community level we can contribute.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, you folks are the eyes and ears for your community. And so if there are initiatives or projects that you know about that you think are really cool, that address some of the goals, let us know and we'll go send our team out and we'll go learn more from them and figure out ways to make sure that those projects are included in the dashboard and help us move the needle. I'll also say that I'll drop this in the chat. Here's the URL to the actual dashboard. So it's alohachallenge.hawaii.gov. And so on the website, you can not only see the detail under each goal, maybe I'll do this. Let me see if I can share screen here. Because I think it's important to show the depth that the dashboard has to answer your question. Awesome. Did that work?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm just going to start because it's the first tab on the left, but the clean energy transformation. You'll note that we are on track in terms of renewable and efficiency. We have some other improvements to make, but you'll see each of the targets here listed below. And so maybe not this particular goal for civic clubs, but I think, and I'm also curious to learn what you folks are up to as a club and your areas of focus. I know in Kailua, we're really focused on stewardship of Ulupo and Kauai. And so there's some overlap for us. I know other clubs got scholarships and things like that. So I'm not totally sure how to make a concrete connection to you, but I want to say that like if club members in their work capacities or, you know, either within or outside of the club, there's probably a target for everyone doing something. And maybe since many of us are INA focused and do a lot of work in that space, the natural resource management goal has some pretty interesting targets: increased freshwater capacity, watershed forest area being managed, marine managed areas, invasive species control. Obviously, that's getting a lot of attention at the legislature with now, is it DABS? Department of Agriculture,
I believe so.
and Biosecurity.
I think it's DAB.
Oh,
Single.
DABS, thank you. Mahalo. And so invasive species control is the target here, and then native species being managed in terms of how do we protect what matters most. And so there's probably a target for someone depending on what you do.
Okay, great. So among our members who have joined us today, we do have the association's Government Relations Committee Chair, as well as our Kaiola, or Environment and Ecosystem. So I want to check in with maybe Max or Keone to see if you have any questions for Kalani and how it might tie to the work that the association is doing, or even adopted resos that have been passed. You're a little soft.
I cannot hear you, Keone. I'm sorry.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
Got you, mom.
And tried a new headset. Mahalo, aloha Kalani. Nice to see you again. I don't have any real questions. I was just tuning in to see what it's about. It's cool to hear exactly what you guys do or why your guys' actual direction. And I'm glad that you shared those resources. It can come in helpful when we're looking at resolutions and putting in emphasis on why something should be passed if it aligns to the state goals. So it's helpful. But yeah, no real questions from my end. Thanks.
Mahalo. You know, when I was thinking about, so CBS, I always get it. What is the community-based fishing?
CVSFA.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. I know we've done resos around that. And so some of that comes up in sort of the marine managed areas. The Holomua initiative is something that we're working at now. The 30 by 30 sort of caught people off guard. And so people like froze and then DAR froze. And then now sort of being reevaluated, and our team is sort of convening folks to figure out what that looks like. But yeah, I think that there are, Dre, to answer your question, there are probably a ton of resos that apply to something within the Aloha Plus Challenge and the 35 targets and 6 goals. Guaranteed, got plenty.
So I guess along those points, my question would then be, typically we use our resos, into my knowledge at least, in terms of legislation, supporting, testifying. I'm not sure if you had any other ideas on utilizing it from your guys' end, or how it could, any other ways we could be implementing those or utilizing them to push the idea forward.
Yeah. Are you folks familiar with Kainen Miranda and Ulalia Woodside Lee? So there are co-chairs for our policy and ledge working group. And so maybe it's even kind of talking story with them and seeing if the two of them maybe want to attend convention, and I don't know if they already have or not. And then vice versa, if you folks wanted to attend the policy and ledge working group and build some synergy, because essentially that's our version of what we got in the committee. So yeah.
Max, did you have a question?
Nothing too specific right now. I mean, I guess more Kalani, as we all move along, maybe if we can keep in contact and dig into dig into that RESL database. And I know this past legislative session we at least had a resolution, a legislative resolution passed based on something the association put forward about a right to a clean environment. So maybe that's a vehicle to build off of going forward.
Totally. Yeah, and what's interesting, I think, for me is I'm also still sort of navigating, right? So I feel, how do I describe this? I'm really grateful for the trust that the board and Celeste have seen in me to be able to steward Hawaii Green Growth moving forward. But I'll be honest, right? Like in this first month of where I'm at, like when you sleep over somebody's house, you're welcome, you're loved, but you don't necessarily feel at home yet. I'm still sort of in that first month time frame. And so like, I'm like, when you cold and then no more blanket because your friend forgot to give you the blanket, I kind of feel a little bit like that. And I suspect over time, I'll start to feel more comfortable to kind of steer this a little bit more. One thing that I'm really excited about is many regions globally are adding what they're calling the 18th SDG, or Sustainable Development Goal. And Hawaii did that back in 18. We added SDG 18, which for us was Mo'omeheo Hawai'i. And so we really wanted to make sure that our culture was informing these global goals, but then also the state goals. And so I'm really kind of curious to look at how we might do that better, and maybe deepen that commitment moving forward.
Great. Well, our association convention is coming up. It's the end of October. And so there might be an opportunity for a workshop for either your policy group to do a presentation or you to come and do a presentation, and we can connect on the dates and stuff. One thing that I noticed was the Aloha Plus Challenge has a Hawaii.gov website. So what government agency is this connected to or attached to?
I don't have the solid concrete answer to that. I don't know historically what it's been, but I'm really grateful for the relationship that I have with Danielle Bass as a state sustainability coordinator, and then OPSD. And if I'm not mistaken, it was or is with OPSD.
Okay. One reso topic that's come up, very recently.
Can I add one more caveat? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
I think what I'm also sort of navigating, right, and understanding, because anytime somebody steps into something new, you're gonna have landmines and tripwires and all the things. But what I'm really excited about is that, the Aloha Plus Challenge was a framework that, like I mentioned, was launched in 2014, identified 6 goals, 35 targets, really was inspired out of the APEC summit in 2011. But what I think is interesting is, while they're still relevant and subsequent administrations have affirmed their commitment to them, the legislature passed a reso and fully recognizing it's a reso, not statute. But what's come of it, right, and what's progressed from it, I think, is a continued commitment as Hawaii around the 2050 plan that OPSD published, right, and then the 24 pieces of actual statutory material that guide this. And so whether it's the renewable energy portfolio standard and 20, 30, 40, 45, all the goals, right? There's 24 of them that have become actual statute in furtherance of this work. I think they work in synergy. And so yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Well, so the question that I wanted to ask was, one of the topics that has come up, at least at the last 2 association conventions related to, I think, sustainable growth and redevelopment and stuff is the future of Lahaina, right? After, the wildfires, and as, rebuilding starts, what kind of synergies or connections do you foresee that sustainable or Hawaii green growth and the goals around sustainability and properly informing that regrowth? What do you see like that connection being?
Yeah, so I'm still getting up to speed, so I'm going to be sparse in the details. But what I'm really proud of the team for doing is they put together a microgrant program. And if I'm not mistaken, we've already committed 50,000 to West Maui nonprofits in partnership with community on the ground in West Maui and in partnership with Aina Aloha Economic Futures. And so Mahina Paishan has been helping to facilitate that before I jumped on. So I'm really excited to sort of go shoulder to shoulder with Mahina and better understand the work that we're doing out there in West Maui. But again, from a tactical and tangible, concrete action, like I mentioned in our 4 pillars, creating the microgrant program in partnership with our sustainability business forum, I think is the direct impact that we try to find, again, that balance between economy, environment, and our social well-being.
Great. And very interesting. All right, I want to see if any of our other members who are on our meeting have any other questions or comments. And if you do, just unmute and go ahead and ask. Okay, well, maybe Kalani, your presentation was so informative that we don't have any questions.
No lie, we all just tired because it's 6 o'clock already. Time for the caucus. I see Auntie Pee-wee. I'm ready, Auntie.
Aloha.
Dre,
Aloha,
I have a
media.
question, Dre.
Yeah, go ahead.
Aloha Kalani, it's Kaʻanāʻanā.
How's it?
Over the last probably 3 to 4 months, a contractor for DBED has been doing presentation and pushing a geothermal narrative forward for a commercial project. What's your guys' I'm very familiar with your folks' organization from when I was at OHA, but I never asked this question when I was at OHA because it wasn't really relevant at the time, but it's relevant now. And I don't see anything on the slides that you presented. Where do you folks stand with geothermal as clean energy?
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever in the past taken a position on a particular technology or solution or project. I think where our role finds us often is in a convening. And I think what we try to do is hold a trusted space to have difficult conversations. And so we have an energy working group that addresses the clean energy transformation goal of the Aloha Plus Challenge goals, but I don't think we've taken a stance on a particular technology or project.
Would that working group be willing to meet with that contractor for DBED?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I need to check with our team. I do know, in fact, I just attended an Energy Equity Hui meeting today. I don't know if anybody knows Layla that's been shepherding that. I'm not opposed to meeting with anybody, so I'm open to learn more. You said it's through DBED?
The contract is with DBED. So DBED contracted a private company out to do the initial community outreach.
And it's for geothermal.
So that's what that it's for geothermal. So that's what that and the format that they're proposing is the latest native to native model based on the indigenous rights out of UN. And that was the last two geothermal plants, I believe, that came online in Aotearoa were under that model of the native to native, where the Maoris who the resource belongs to, just as geothermal on Hawaii Island belongs to Native Hawaiians, they didn't just receive residual payments, which Native Hawaiians receive now, right? Native Hawaiians receive 20% residuals off of PGV in Puna, but the tribes that own the land where those two plants were eventually built on had a seat at the table. So it wasn't just the revenue that was generated, but the control and a say in how it was built, how it's run. Because it's on their land, they were the ones at the table that had the say. Then that had never happened in Aotearoa before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm always happy to talk story and learn more. Is that the one Ian was helping coordinate some of the community meetings for, Castino?
That was.
Yeah. I'll go check.
I know that they put it.
Sure.
Ian's no longer contracted with them. He stepped up.
Okay.
I know that they've been with the association, Dre, to do a workshop, but they I don't believe they've ever heard back from Malia.
Okay, well, we can follow up on that for sure.
Yeah, I'm curious. The other thing too, I think maybe just as an aside, and I don't know if it's happened or not in the past, but I've sort of asked myself, just as a Hawaiian, right? Like, has anybody ever come to us as a community and said, hey, when we think about energy, what do you want to see as a community as a whole, right? Because what I think happens often is we get the like on a project by project basis. And so it's like, do you like this right here, right now? And it's baked already, or at least like 60% baked. But nobody has sort of come to Hawaiians and said, hey, what would it look like if Hawaiians collectively, and maybe this is a role for the association, is to say like, hey, as Kanaka, we've identified these technologies in these places with this prioritization that makes sense to us. To your point, the nation to nation model, the residuals, those things are built in, the community benefit packages are sort of defined and clarified. And then it de-risks the projects for future developers, right? So I'm just not sure if that's ever happened before, but I'd be curious if it did.
That you worded that way, Kalani, because that's exactly what they're doing.
Cool.
And that's exactly how it's being presented to the organizations that they're presenting to on Hawaii Island.
So is it HSEO that's doing it under DBED?
No, the company is Waika, which is a subsidiary of IDG, IDG was the principal for those two projects in Aotearoa, and IDG and Waika is native owned. They're owned by Native Hawaiians. It's a Native Hawaiian owned company.
Okay.
So they help those two Maori tribes, the two trusts, right? Because each tribe in Aotearoa have their own trust, right?
Yeah.
Not like how Native Hawaiians all have oha. In
Yeah.
Aotearoa, they all have their own. They help those trusts navigate that native to native model to get them that seat at the table versus a foreign company, which is what happened with PGV in Puna, right? A foreign company came in, said we're gonna do this and dictated this is how it's gonna go and this is what we're gonna do. And state law says that we gotta pay all of this money to the state, the county, and OHA. So that's what we're gonna pay, and that's all we're gonna pay, and that's just the way it's gonna be.
Interesting. Yeah. So what they're doing now is sort of, is it just like the geothermal lane of that, or is it saying like wind, solar, geothermal, I don't know, whatever.
This particular project with DBED is only geothermal.
Okay. Yeah, the perspective I was trying to take was like, let's look at solar, let's look at wind, let's look at wave, let's look at whatever it is. I'm not going to try to pretend to be an energy expert, but I just, from my own background and experience, how do we approach the question holistically, right? So we're not having to go fight. I don't know, maybe this is just selfishly me. I don't like keep my red shirt in the trunk all the time, right? Like when a project pops up, and I don't like fight every time something happens. Can we sort of like do the like big level thinking to say, we hate geothermal, we love solar, we hate wind turbines on the ocean, but they're okay over here. Like, have we done that combo is I guess what I'm curious about.
No, and I think that's a great point. Like if that conversation happened differently, right? The response is going to be different. So I think that's a very well taken point.
Yeah.
But I have my red shirt in my trunk also. So
fair. Thanks for that, Kaʻanāʻanā. I'll try to look into it more and then figure out who at DBED is doing it. My suspicion is it's the State Energy Office.
It is not.
Oh.
The state energy office has their own they have a different separate geothermal, for lack of a better term, package. The state energy office wants to explore geothermal on Maui and Oahu.
Ooh. I never heard the Oahu thing come up. That's cool.
And package right now is specifically but if you go to DBED's actually DLNR's website, they have a map of geothermal subzone. So the last study that they did, which is decades old, of where the science showed that there is possible geothermal activity. DBED wants to update that because technology has come light years since that was done. So DBED wants a new surface study done. So no pukas in the ground or anything. They want to do a new surface study of the entire island to update that.
I wonder if that's the Green Infrastructure Authority then. The only other one I could think about is maybe like NELHA, but unless it's in director's office itself. I'll go check it out. Thank you for that.
all right, checking if anyone else maybe has a question or comment.
Real quick, if Kalani, as I was remembering your presentation, I kind of thought of something I've come across in my professional life where I guess there are now state-funded projects for, wetland and different pond restoration. So
yes,
are things like that, like I would assume that's kind of helping feed into the goals of what we have.
absolutely. So let me see if I can pull this back up. So a lot of those state-funded projects, right, are probably captured here. And the reason why I say probably is we really rely on reporting from the department itself, from those implementing the projects. And so our dashboard is only as good as the data that we're getting. I think the challenge we've had over a number of years, as I've learned from the team, is the cadence of the data tends to be sporadic, right? And so sometimes we'll get an annual report to the ledge, and then my team sits there and sifts all of that out and pulls it all out. Sometimes we have good working relationships with the division or branch chiefs, and then so we sort of sit with them and say, what are you doing? But it is a significant undertaking of our team's time to actually go cultivate those relationships, honor those relationships, or do the manual tasking of pulling that actual data out so that it populates the dashboard. So all that to say, we might have most of it, but I cannot say for sure we get all of it.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's interesting too is we're trying to work with like the ArcGIS office to sort of map some of this too. And so, oh, wrong way, sorry. Learning how to scroll. And really trying to better understand what the managed areas look like in terms of watersheds, and leaning on like the watershed partnerships and all of that. So, and then looking at funders, right? Like we just met with Harold Castle Foundation this week, right? And Eric, and understanding what they're funding. And so we're trying to get really creative in how we're pulling in the data. So sometimes it's from the funders side, sometimes it's from the folks implementing the project, and then sometimes it's government. So yeah, all kind.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have a question or comment? So a lot of the work that you described, especially with regard to, fuel and emissions, sounds so familiar and parallel to some of the work happening at the Department of Transportation. We even have a youth council helping with that, switching hats here a little bit. So I mean, it's good to, I think, understand the full landscape, right, of all the different parties kind of working toward the same and similar goal. So I think that's good. And I think, going forward, there's plenty of opportunity for collaborative effort, right? So we don't feel like we're all alone in doing similar work.
Absolutely. No, mahalo for that. It can seem overwhelming.
Right. No, 1000%. And I think, switching hats, right, as the Department of Transportation kind of rolls out its plans to reduce emissions and become more energy secure and help the state propel itself in that direction. Right. It does feel overwhelming, but when you break it down to strategies and tactics, the goal seems slightly more attainable. And on that, I just want to see one more time if any of our other members have questions. And if you do, go ahead and unmute. And if you don't, we will see if Kalani, maybe you have any closing remarks or mana'o to share with us.
I'm just incredibly grateful for the relationships that we have with many of you on this call and for the opportunity to share. I think the last time I did this was when I started at HTA, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
Almost a decade ago. And so I'm grateful to be back. Glad I'm not back more frequently. But no, I'm really grateful for the support of both, not only me individually, but really our community as a whole, because so many of us as club members are engaged and active in so many ways. And so whether you're sitting on another club's scholarship committee or you're doing your fundraiser or whatever it may be, thank you for what you do, because it all matters. And so no matter how small or how large, it all adds up.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing the work that you are doing and all these goals. And, again, there's plenty of opportunity, I think, for all Hawaiian civic clubs and the association as a whole to, help move the needle, right, on a lot of these goals. So thank you for sharing that with us. And for our members, our meeting next month, I think, is on August 28th. And we're going to have Hina Wangkalu, come talk to us about Kuleana and Kulana. So join us for another Pauhana meeting, you know, the 2 rules. And, you know, similarly, we will, you know, record and post the video for our members. So with that, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Kalani, for spending time with us. Take care, everyone. See you next month.
Mahalo,
Mahalo.
Dre. Mahalo, Kalani.
Mahalo.
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 Mahalo.